One thing I don't miss about living in a big city is all the traffic. So as we approach Galveston Island to talk about the murder of this many people by what must have been multiple serial killers, and there have been some convictions, I'll get to that later, but it might put into context how ironic it is that these stories would start here in the 1970s. See, depending on who you ask, Galveston Island is cursed. During colonial times, when pirates would maraud into the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, they would use Galveston Island as a base. Galveston was also used as a hub for the slave trade. At one point, a hurricane hit Galveston Island and wiped out almost everyone on the island. We're talking tens of thousands of people died. So yes, Galveston has some very dark history to it. And I'm not surprised that mass killings would start here. So while I was here, I wanted to kind of show you guys kind of just what Galveston looked like, just to kind of give you an idea of what, you know, the first of these victims, you know, what were they called home. Unfortunately, I can't fly my drone, but I did book a helicopter, and we'll get some shots in the air before we'll kind of move on and talk a little bit more about these victims. See where the body was found, that'd be great. That's it right there. Just, wow. So the very first body that was found was a little girl that was 14 years old. Her name was Brenda Jones. And we flew over the area where they found her body. she disappeared. This was in 1971, and of course they found her floating in the bay. Now, another thing you may have noticed is, even though this is a populated area, there are sparse wetlands and fields that make it very easy to dispose of a body. But Brenda was the first, and she was definitely not the last. I'm going to show you by drone here in a little bit from between here and Houston, there's just these sparse fields. On Google Maps you can see it, and it's kind of a problem. Nobody goes into these things, and you could kill someone in them and no one would ever know. They're still finding bodies today. The most recent one was in 2016, but we'll start heading back towards Houston, and we'll stop at another location where 4 bodies were found. Okay, so behind me, guys, is the 3,000 block of Calder Drive in League City. League City, during the killing sprees, got a pretty bad reputation because a lot of bodies were found here. Now, I don't have permission to go onto this property, so I'm not going to do it. I will fly the drone over it. And you will often hear, inappropriately applied, that this is the killing field, that 30 bodies were found here. That's not necessarily true. 4 bodies were found right behind me in this field. We'll take a look at it real quick. So while I was filming the drone shots there, a police officer stopped by. Guess I apparently looked suspicious, but we got to talking. He said another 2 bodies were found just south of that area as well, so that brings the total up to about 6 just right in that area. But let's head back to the hotel and have a conversation about who's out here killing everybody. So the first conviction was a man named Kevin Smith. He was arrested in Louisiana, and his DNA matched DNA found on Crystal Baker. She had been beaten and strangled and raped, and her body left in the killing fields. There was another bag by the name of John King. Him and an accomplice had admitted to police that they had strangled a girl and raped her by the name of Shelley Sykes, and claimed that they had dumped the body in the killing fields. They never found the body, but both of them were convicted of aggravated kidnapping, and both of them died in prison within the past decade. And lastly, there was another gentleman, well, an asshole, let's be honest, named William Reese. He had confessed to killing 2 women and leaving them in the killing fields. They were able to recover those bodies. He was suspected of killing another woman in Oklahoma, as his DNA matched the DNA found on her. And then I believe in 2016, and this is the last body to be recovered, he confessed again to a 3rd murder where he left the body in the killing fields. And like I said, I believe this was the last body that the police were able to recover. Imagine how terrified these girls and women would have been. These places aren't places you want to die in. In fact, I'm going to take you to one right now in the middle of the night, just so you kind of get a sense of how this is not the place you want to die in. is where multiple dead bodies are found. I'm not going to tell you where it's at because I promised the property owner I would not tell you. Sorry, it's so humid. My lens keeps fogging up. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, it's creepy as out here. And I can see, being a firearm owner, how you could discharge a firearm in a place like this and no one would ever know. Sorry, watching out for snakes and alligators and all that kind of crazy. But yeah, you know, you got major highways on both sides of you here. You have oil field equipment. You have refineries out here. Hell, you have NASA just right over here. No one would ever know. It is scary to think that if you were one of these victims, this is where it went down. Ugh, gives me the chills just being out here. So I'm not getting too far away from my car. But yeah, middle of nowhere in the Texas killing fields. So dark, you guys can't even see for the most part on these cameras. All right, guys, that'll be enough for that one. So what is my take on all of this? I guess the walk away from this would be to, kind of remember that there are still bad people out there. Now, out of the few bodies that there have been connections to in the killing fields, or convictions to the connections, there's still a lot more bodies. This can't not have been the work of 3 or 4 guys. There had to have been multiple people dumping bodies out there. They very well could still be alive today. And the sad thing is, someone out there right now knows who these people are, and they're not saying anything. Given the more seriousness of this subject, I know for a fact that this video will never be monetized on YouTube. In fact, I'm not even going to try to monetize it. Instead, I am going to put a link down to a charity below, which is connected to the investigation of the killing fields. And as more and more victims are found, they offer support services for the family. Anyways, that's all I got for now. I'm going to go find some food, take a nap, head back home. We'll see you next time.